Under arrest, the famous director who fled the U.S. more than 30 years ago following a notorious sex case, Roman Polanski, in custody tonight. Critical questions for the White House. Send more troops to Afghanistan and how to deal with a defiant Iran. Sky high. Prepare to pay more to get home from your holidays. And William Safire, remembering a giant in journalism and politics. William Safire dead tonight at 79.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening. We begin with a story tonight that proves the long arm of the law also has a long memory. And today it reached out across the Atlantic to bring to justice Roman Polanski, a man famous for the movies he's made and infamous for a sex crime that happened here in the U.S. more than 30 years ago. Today, his life as an international fugitive living in plain sight came to an inglorious end in Switzerland. NBC's Tom Aspel has our report.
Roman Polanski, revered director, rich, famous, and totally at home on a red carpet. Tonight he was to have been guest of honor at the Zurich Film Festival, but instead he's in a Swiss jail, facing extradition to the United States for having sex in 1977 with a 13-year-old girl.
He's always had to worry about just this possibility happening, because he's obviously aware that there seems to be some vendetta against him.
Polanski made some of the defining films of the 1960s in Poland and Britain, then moved to Hollywood to make Rosemary's Baby in 1968. It's still considered one of the darkest of horror movies. A year later, his wife, the actress Sharon Tate, was murdered by cult followers of Charles Manson. She was 8 months pregnant. His fans doubted his ability to recover, but Polanski came back with Chinatown in 1974 and a brief appearance alongside his friend Jack Nicholson. Shortly after that, he found himself a fugitive from justice.
You know what happens to nosy fellows? Huh? No?
I just never dreamed of finding myself on the other side of the law.
In 1977, Polanski was arrested and allowed to plead guilty to having unlawful sex with 13-year-old Samantha Gailey. Then, claiming the judge had reneged on a sentencing deal, Polanski fled to France, where his career continued to flourish.
Roman Polanski for The Pianist.
He received a directing Oscar for his 2002 film, The Pianist. Polanski couldn't go to California, so his friend Harrison Ford traveled abroad to present it. But U.S. Justice hadn't forgotten about Polanski. The Los Angeles District Attorney's Office informed Swiss police he was expected in Zurich this weekend.
Of course, he's not a Swiss citizen. So this case will turn on Swiss law and how they will interpret what happened in the proceedings back in the U.S.
Polanski is being held in jail while the U.S. has 60 days to file for his extradition. He has the right to contest his detention and any extradition decision in a Swiss court. Tom Aspel, NBC News, London.
Now to some difficult foreign policy challenges for the White House in the week ahead. They concern the nuclear threat from Iran, which today launched missiles in another act of defiance, and the debate over sending more American troops to Afghanistan. NBC's Mike Vicara is at the White House tonight with the latest. Mike?
Good evening, Lester. American officials today are demanding unfettered access to Iranian nuclear sites, and they threaten to impose severe sanctions if Iran won't comply.
Today, a show of defiance from Iran, test-launching mid-range missiles just 2 days after their secret nuclear plant was exposed to the world. The launch drew little reaction from Washington, where officials say tougher sanctions are the best way to force Iran to come clean.
The reality is there is no military option that does anything more than buy time.
Americans are weary, understandably they're weary, and it's a very difficult decision for him.
And Lester, General McChrystal, along with General Petraeus and Secretaries Gates and Clinton, will be here Tuesday for a big meeting on Afghanistan in the White House Situation Room. Aides say a new strategy will be in place in a couple of weeks. Lester?
All right, Mike, thank you. Some frightening images from the Philippines today show people being swept away by raging floodwaters. More than 100 people are dead or missing. Others were able to struggle through the waters to safety, and still others were rescued by boats or helicopters. The flooding was a result of a tropical storm that dumped nearly 17 inches of rain on the northern Philippines in a 12-hour period. It also triggered mudslides. The capital of Manila was among the hardest areas hit. An estimated 300,000 people have been displaced by the storm. Meantime, a cleanup is now in full swing in Georgia after last week's devastating storms and flooding. Damage is now estimated at $500 million. We get the latest from NBC's Ron Mott in Austell, Georgia.
I got things to get those. On an otherwise beautiful fall Sunday in this Atlanta suburb, Joyce Ray and her family, like most in this neighborhood, sweated through an ugly to-do list. Gutting the house, piece by smelly, soppy piece.
It is very depressing and shocking and everything.
On the money tonight, some important new numbers to watch this week that could determine whether Wall Street continues the rally, which has kept the Dow soaring, up nearly 50% from its March lows. We're joined now by CNBC's Sharon Epperson. So what are the key numbers to watch, Sharon?
Good evening, Lester. You know, this week the markets will be focused on a number of economic reports. The most closely watched will come on Friday with the Labor Department's September employment report. Investors are very concerned about job losses because of the impact on the economy and particularly on consumer spending. The unemployment rate hit 9.7% in August and is expected to tick up even closer to 10% this month. But the good news is the pace of job losses has been declining. 741,000 jobs were lost in January of this year compared to 216,000 in August. Now, economists forecast the job losses will come in under 200,000 for September. On the home front, a widely watched price index comes out on Tuesday and may offer another sign of recovery. But even if it shows that home prices continue to rise, the question remains whether that rise hinges on the first-time homebuyer's tax credit, which expires December 1st. And the markets have been optimistic about manufacturing. One key measure has been improving, and traders and investors want to see that growth continue. We're going to get the latest numbers there on Thursday. But on the flip side, analysts are bracing for perhaps more bad news when it comes to auto sales, which also come out on Thursday. U.S. sales topped 14 million in August thanks to that wildly successful Cash for Clunkers program. But now that the program has ended, J.D. Power & Associates sees sales plunging to about 9 million vehicles. That will be the worst level of the year, Lester.
Sharon Epperson tonight, thank you. Sure. William Safire, the long-running New York Times op-ed columnist and student of the English lexicon, died today. In an age of talking heads and political pundits, no one quite found the right words like Safire. William Safire took little at face value, not the people he wrote about or the words he used to describe them. For more than 30 years, he was a conservative voice on a left-leaning op-ed page. His analysis was sharp and sophisticated.
The attempt, I think, is to make anybody who disagrees with the president seem like some kind of a bomb-throwing nut.
His legendary turn of phrase was both a source of amusement and scorn, as when he once called Hillary Clinton a congenital liar, causing Bill Clinton to openly wish he could punch him in the nose. William Safire was a college dropout, but he possessed a natural gift with words and the English language. In 1959, as a PR man, he organized Vice President Richard Nixon's so-called kitchen table debate with the Soviet Union's Nikita Khrushchev. Much later, it was Safire who, while working as one of Nixon's White House speechwriters, gave us the famous phrase, nattering nabobs of negativism, used by Vice President Spiro Agnew. Safire's keen insight on American politics earned him a Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2006. It also made him a frequent guest on Meet the Press.
It was quite a moment, and you do get to bring your whole family.
The deep respect he earned in Washington was a far cry from 1973 when he joined the Times and was resented as a Nixon apologist. By 1978, he had taken home a Pulitzer for commentary. His last op-ed column in 2005 was titled, "Never Retire," and in fact, he didn't. His popular New York Times Magazine feature, On Language, a dissection of the words and phrases we so often use and misuse, continued right up until just this month. But in describing his job, Safire always had just one word: pundit. William Safire died of pancreatic cancer. He was 79. When Nightly News continues this Sunday, home away from home, families forced to camp out in hard times, still finding a lot to be thankful for. Later, making music on the world stage and making a difference by helping children make music all their own. We're back now with a new American neighborhood. Hard-pressed to make ends meet, some families are making tough choices to keep a roof over their heads. It may look and feel like roughing it, but as NBC's Janet Shamlian reports, there are some unexpected comforts along the way.
It's a morning ritual in America.
That's our bus.
But this school year, the bus is making some unusual stops, like at this campground just off a busy interstate in central Tennessee.
I'd like to live. I'm hoping that I'll at least be in a house, but if not, I'd rather stay here.
Recession's new neighborhoods as families wait out tough times. Janet Shamlian, NBC News, Lebanon, Tennessee.
Up next here tonight, attention air travelers, get ready for another new fee. We turn now to the skies and soaring airline fees. Major airlines have found yet another fee to tack on, and this one hits travelers where it hurts and when it hurts. The holidays. NBC's Jeff Rawson has the details.
Thanksgiving is coming. That means Christmas and New Year's aren't far behind. But before you celebrate, the airlines are ready to collect. They're targeting holiday travelers. American Airlines, United, Delta, Northwest, and U.S. Airways will now charge $10 extra just to fly on the Sunday after Thanksgiving and the weekend after New Year's.
Another way and another scheme to, continue to pump money out of the consumers.
It's never ending. Fees are never ending.
Fares are actually dropping. It's the surcharges that are skyrocketing. At this, customer complaints are actually down this year. But at what cost? Jeff Rawson, NBC News, New York.
Michael Vick played his first NFL regular season game in more than 2 years today, but he saw limited action. He ran once for 7 yards and threw 2 incomplete passes as his Philadelphia Eagles rattled the Kansas City Chiefs 34-14. Vick was released from prison in May after serving 18 months for his involvement in a dogfighting ring. Up next here tonight, she overcame tragedy to realize her dream, and now she's trying to help others realize theirs.
Today on NBC.
Finally tonight, making a difference. A world-class musician back on stage after an accident that almost cost her her life. And now, as NBC's Peter Alexander reports, she is reaching out to help others make music and is making a difference along the way.
She's been called a virtuoso.
I really believe that music, especially classical.
That's NBC Nightly News for this Sunday. Stay tuned next for Football Night in America, followed by NBC Sunday Night Football. The Indianapolis Colts take on the Arizona Cardinals. I'm Lester Holt reporting from New York. Brian Williams will be here tomorrow. For all of us here at NBC News, good night.